Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to The Breakdown, deFORMULA's podcast, where we deconstruct the college formula for you. I'm here with Ganisha at the beautiful Navy Yard at Urban Outfitters. Ganisha is a finance and operations intern. Ganisha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Ganisha is a business major at BU, but we are lucky enough here to hear about two different college experiences. Ganisha started off at University of Pittsburgh, but then transferred to Boston University. Ganisha, tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I started off at the University of Pittsburgh as a biology major, and then I kind of knew I was thinking of transferring when I decided I wanted to switch my major to business. That happened towards the end of first semester, maybe even a little earlier, and I knew I wanted to just see what other business options were out there for me. I wasn't 100% totally sure I was going to be transferring, but the further I got into my schooling at Pitt, I just realized I love the people there. Like, it's a great institution. It just wasn't exactly my perfect fit, and I thought if I was spending so much time and money going to school, I should be going somewhere I really want to be. So I applied to a couple different schools to transfer. I was lucky enough to get into BU, and that is where I am now. I'm going to be a junior in the fall.
Nice. So let's actually start from the beginning. So Ganisha went to high school at Springfield High School, where the school size was 1,218 students. So that's a pretty decent sized high school. So how do you feel in general your high school influenced you in your college search?
Yeah, so I think it influenced me in a couple ways where I wouldn't say I went to a big high school, but it definitely also wasn't a small high school. My graduating class had around 250 students in it, and while there were a good amount of people, I still knew everyone. But that also encouraged me to want to go to a larger school rather than a small school, because I wanted to be meeting new people all the time, people from different backgrounds, and kind of learning more about their cultures, what they're studying. And then I also knew I wanted to go to school in a city. I grew up in the suburbs, in the same town my whole life, and I knew there's a lot more things I wanted to see. So I pretty much exclusively applied to city schools.
So did you go on visits before you applied to the different colleges?
Yeah, I went to around 4 different college visits. I did go to Pitt before I applied there. I had never been to BU until I went for orientation, so I already knew I was going there. I'd been to Boston before, but I hadn't specifically been to the BU campus, so that's the first time I'd ever been there. And I visited a couple other schools. Some of the ones I visited I didn't even end up applying to because I realized they weren't for me. One of them was school kind of in the middle of nowhere, and like as soon as I got there I realized it's something I couldn't see myself there for 4 years, so I never even applied there.
So what made you select those 4 different schools before you went out and visited them?
I just heard a lot of good things about them. Pitt has a really good Premed program, and that's what I was thinking of doing at the time. Another school had a really good name, and I knew somebody else that went there. She loved it, so I thought I'd check it out. And then the other schools I would visit just because I was in the area. I was visiting the town, and I knew I was going through the college for application process soon, so it would be beneficial just to check them out, see what was happening.
Nice. So when you went about your decision to transfer, I know that was a really big choice. How did you go about that process?
Yeah, so I would say it was primarily for 2 reasons. One being I did switch my major, and it was a pretty big major change. It was from biology to finance.
Oh, wow.
So I would be basically, it's a completely different program. And I did go to Pitt heavily just because I really love their science program. So when I was switching, I was going to see what other options were out there for me. I wasn't, like I said, not definite sure on transferring, but I just wanted to see where I could get in, what my possibilities were. And then 2 being, while Pittsburgh is a city, it's a little bit more of a slower paced city, and I like it when more things are happening. It's still a really cool city. I still go back to visit, but it wasn't exactly my vibe and where I could see myself being for another 3 years.
Okay. So how was the orientation process when you got to BU?
It was definitely different than the Pitt orientation process. I feel like at the Pitt orientation process, there was a lot more events, ways to kind of get you started for your first college experience. And At BU, they kind of throw you in a little more.
This is for the transfer students,
This is for the
right?
transfer students.
Okay.
So you still get a 1 weekend orientation just like first-year students would. But once you get there, you kind of have to figure things out a little more. At Question, which is my business school, we did have a really good transfer advisor. He helped us figure out all our credit transfers, what classes we should be taking, what I have to do to still graduate on time, because that is a negative of transferring, is sometimes you lose credits and you might have to take an extra semester. I'm really lucky, and most of my credits transferred, so I don't have to take like any extra semesters. I don't have to overload, but it's not always the case. That is something else you should consider if you're thinking about transferring. And while we were thrown in a little bit more, I kind of appreciated it because I didn't want to be doing freshman year all over again. Like, I know how college works. It was more me like figuring out where buildings are and what's happening on campus, but that happens naturally as you're there a little longer.
Right. So let's turn it over to housing. How is the dorming? How is it at Pitt? And then you can tell me also a little bit about BU.
So my dorm situation was pretty decent for a freshman dorm. Like I've said, there's not really ever going to be a college dorm you walk into and you're like, this is amazing. Like, I would love to live here forever.
They're functional.
Especially if it's a freshman dorm. My freshman year roommate and I got along really well. We didn't go random. We met through Facebook. We happened to be from like towns that were next to each other, so we got to know each other before we got to college. And we had a pretty decent sized dorm. Like, there was dorms at Pitt that were a third the size of ours in a double, so
you lucked out.
We did luck out. There were other dorms that were bigger than ours too, so like we were happy with what we had. And then at BU, I lived in a triple, but I only had one other roommate, so we had a lot of space for the two of us. And that was in a brownstone. So basically, you can imagine like a brownstone house in Boston that's been converted to 2 or 3 dorms every floor, and then it's around 8 people per floor sharing 2 or 1 bathroom, depending like on which building you're in. They can be really pretty. I had transfer housing on East Campus, so it was a little far from everything, but close to the business school, so I was okay with it. I'm going to be living in an on-campus apartment next year, so I won't have to have a meal plan or anything. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about the food.
Dining hall wise or like city wise?
You can tell me about the dining hall, and then if there's like a lot of places that students like to go to off campus that are popular.
I think the food at BU is pretty good in the dining halls. The only reason I'm not getting a dining plan this semester is not that I don't like the food, it's just that I eat the same thing like once a day, like every day, so it gets a little boring after a while, and I would rather invest the money that I'd be spending on a dining plan just to like make my own food and eat out. At Pitt, they had these omelets that I really liked. They had really good omelets, but I would say I think BU had healthier options than I had at Pitt.
Okay. So Ganisha, you're part of Kappa Delta at BU. Tell me a little bit about the Greek life and if it changed or just enhanced your overall college experience.
I think it definitely enhanced it. I was thinking of joining Greek life while I was still a freshman at Pitt, but I knew I was transferring by that point. So I didn't want to join a chapter, get to know all the girls, and kind of peace out after a month or two. So I waited until second semester at BU, because that's when formal recruitment happens for sororities. And I ended up joining KD. And what it really helped me do was meet people that were outside my like first semester friend group and outside the business school, because those were really the only 2 like groups I was hanging out with up until that point. I knew some girls in KD prior to joining, but like my big, she had a different major than me, and even though we had a lot of mutual friends, we never crossed paths, and now we're so close. So I think it opened up a lot of doors for me to meet people not only in my own sorority that have different majors, but other Greek organizations. So I've really enjoyed my experience so far.
That's awesome. So what's the party scene like? Is it mainly just through your sorority and like doing it with frats, or do you guys go out at BU?
We definitely have like our events with like I definitely go to the events with my sorority sisters, so we'll have different mixers, we'll have parties with different organizations on campus, and those are really fun because you get to like hang out with all the girls and like meet new people. I still have parties like with like my outside Greek friends. Like that's one thing I didn't want to do when I joined Greek Life, was only hang out with Greek Life people. So there's definitely a lot to do. People go out in Boston once you're 21, so like we can go to like bars, clubs, whatever. Like that's like a pretty big scene too, but I would say it's pretty diverse.
What about at Pitt?
At Pitt, to be quite honest, I was knew I wanted to transfer and I wanted to go to a certain caliber school, so I had to have a good GPA to do that. I definitely studied a lot more and went out a lot less. So there's definitely like the similar scene, like you can go out to bars, like you can go to house parties, but I definitely partake in it more now that I'm established, like I've established what major I'm doing, I'm confident in, and I'm doing well in school. I've made my friend group, like now that I'm settled in at BU, so I've had different experiences at both.
So tell me a little bit about the football season. You told me that BU doesn't have a football team.
Yeah, so Pitt, we had like the whole football team. Our season tickets were $25. We played at an NFL stadium because we co-own it with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that was really fun. Like you got to have like this whole big day with your friends. I'm happy I got that traditional American football college experience. But at BU we don't have a football team, and sometimes it's lacking, but also the students there haven't really ever experienced having a football team for the most part. So hockey is really big at our school. But I think football definitely does add to the school spirit if it's there at the school you go to.
Do you go to other schools' football games or not really?
I do not.
No. So just to wrap it up, so what would your favorite 3 things be about each school?
Both schools, I would say the people for sure. My friends at Pitt, I still see them. Like I go back to Pittsburgh to visit them. My freshman year roommate just visited me here in Philly 2 days ago. And then at BU, I have so many great friends. I'm so excited to go back in the fall. Like I miss them so much. All like really high quality people that are really ambitious, like they have good drive, but then like we also can just like chill and have a good time. So I see my personalities lining up with like both of those groups. And for Pitt, I would say I really liked the way the campus was laid out because all the academic buildings are really close to each other. They're all in a quarter square mile, while at BU it's a little more spread out, so it can be more walking, and especially when it's really cold, it's kind of tedious. Also at Pitt, Pittsburgh itself is a really cool city. There's a lot of like unique like characteristics about it. Like it has like the most bridges in the world, like you're not going to really find anywhere else, and it's really like chill and up and coming. So I think it is a really cool city too. And then Boston, it's just like Boston's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city.
One of the reasons I transferred to Boston is because every time I mention Boston to anybody, they'd be like, oh my God, like I love Boston. So that was really influential to me. And then I would say one more thing about BU is definitely the business program. I've gotten so many resources. I have this like wonderful internship now, and all the other students are like so passionate and driven. It encourages me to work harder. So those, I would say, I don't know if I did 3 for each, but those are like my favorite things about both.
Nice. So to finish, what is the single most important thing you would tell your high school self?
Yeah, so I would tell myself not to think so linearly. When I was picking what school I was going to, when I was picking what major I was going to, I was like, okay, like this is the path, this is what's happening. And then once I got to Pitt and I wasn't super happy with where I was and what I was studying, I was really scared to switch my major because I thought I was messing up in a way. But once I did, I was so much happier. I'm like 100% like proud of myself for deciding to do that because like higher quality of life, I really enjoy what I'm studying. So while it was scary in the time, like the payoff was so huge. So I would go back and tell myself, don't think so linearly, and it's okay, like diverge from the path that you initially decided to go upon.
That's a great tip. So Ganisha, it was a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you all for tuning in to The Breakdown, and come back soon to hear more on the deFORMULA podcast. You can download deFORMULA on the iOS store to meet with a college student on campus or through video chat. For more information, you can check out our website at deFORMULA, which is deFORMULA.com. If you're interested in a feature on The Breakdown, email us at thebreakdown@deFORMULA.com.